Let's go with Maureen in Canada. Maureen, you are on the line with Jimmy and Matt. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm just okay.
We're all right, Maureen. It's so good to hear from you again.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I have called a few times. I really only found your shows a few months ago, and you've really given me a lot to think about. And I'm deconstructing right now, and I really thought I had made my decision that I'm an atheist. But these thoughts keep coming up in my mind, lingering questions. I think it's a way for me to just try to, think that, well, maybe you've made a wrong decision or not. I'm not sure. The one thought I have in my head right now is I listen to all the science. I believe in the science. I know there's no proof of a God, but I keep wondering different things. And the thing I'm wondering right now is, why do we have, as a species, so different from others, that we have this pursuit of knowledge? We have a conscience. And I keep thinking I'm thinking that because I think it must be a God that's done that for us. I don't know.
So first I'd say you might want to stop looking at this as a decision, because from my perspective, there is no decision. You do not choose what you believe. You're either convinced that there is a God or you're not convinced there is a God. And it sounds like you're not convinced there's a God. It sounds like you're not convinced there's a God, but you are still holding out hope, or you have these questions that aren't answered that you think would be answered by God. Let's assume that we have no understanding of why humans have brains that seek knowledge at all. How does a God answer that question?
I don't know. I guess I when I listen to you guys, and I really like the knowledge that you give, the scientific facts behind things, and I guess I couldn't figure out where this came into science. Like, was this just part of evolution or what it is? And
we're not alone. So you put humans in this category as unique intelligence, but it's not. Crows use tools. All the other great apes communicate. They have senses of fairness. They learn to use tools. That we're better at it is no more relevant than that cheetahs run faster than us. You might as well say, why do cheetahs run faster than humans? Why do they run faster than just about everybody? Maybe it's a God that did it. Or maybe they're the surviving offspring of the ones who ran faster, and the ones that didn't run fast enough were culled. Similarly, you and I are the surviving offspring of inquisitive little mammals that decided, to fill in the gaps of where we were lacking, like our ability to run, our ability to survive in, a variety of different climates, and our ability to survive underwater, et cetera. And we use that to learn things, and we grew on that. If you go back, 20,000 years, we didn't know as much. And what I'm wondering is, yes, it's interesting that we have a different, perhaps not that much of a different type of intelligence, but it's undeniable that as far as we can tell, there are no other animals as good at thinking as we are. But why do we need a God to explain that?
I think that's my question. I don't know why I keep thinking there has to be a different explanation than just that's the way we develop.
I actually have a question for you, Maureen, that I think might also clear this up. You were asking about why do we have this innate sense that we want to seek more knowledge? So do you have a basic understanding of evolution already? Or are you pretty familiar with just the basics? I don't need you to be advanced in any way.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So
yes, I am.
Would you say that when you think about our species got better at surviving, better at healing, better at mating, better at having more offspring when the trait emerged that we wanted more knowledge, when our brains developed in a way that said, I want to seek knowledge, I want to keep knowledge, I want to preserve knowledge? Was that an improvement to the survival of our species, or did it take away from the survival of our species?
No, that was an improvement. I can see what you're saying.
Massive improvement, right, Maureen? Isn't it, in fact, the reason why we are kind of the apex species of the entire world?
Yeah.
Great. So from now on, whenever you ask yourself, why do we have this trait? One of the first questions you need to know if you have a basic understanding of evolution is, would we have benefited if we evolved a trait like this? Because if so, then that's really your answer. The reason why we seek knowledge, the reason why we have that trait and it feels innate is because we have clearly genetically developed a type of brain, and that genetic trait was selected for. And you can see that there were Homo sapiens, but then before that Homo erectus, and before that all along the line of humans that were getting more and more advanced as their brains were being selected for, and they were getting better and better at surviving until you ultimately have us, who are the best at surviving as far as animals go, and replicating and all of those things. And so even your question of like, Matt's right to point out, none of that implies a God just because you don't know, but the specific question that you're talking about isn't an I don't know. It's actually pretty simple birds have wings because it helps them survive, and their wings got better because it helped them survive more. Our brains helped us survive, and our brains got better because the more our brains got better, the better we survived. Because as those traits were emerging in us, they were selected for, because that's how natural selection works.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I understand it. And I think that's the truth. And I don't understand why I just keep trying to figure out that there's got to be a different thing. I don't know why I can't just let that go.
Because humans are naturally egotistical, and you find the I don't knows more unsatisfying than the way that people who are theistic claim to know. You see the appeal of the like, well, these people at least are able to put those questions down and not feel antagonized by them all the time. Whereas if you have to live in the I don't know, you feel in a constant state of antagonization, and that antagonization feels you want to get out of that state. So if you can't answer the question and the antagonization, you want at least some other exercise to get rid of it. And you just have to get over that and get used to it.
You are engaging in a perfect example of the very thing you're talking about. You are the descendants of people who were obsessive learners and who were very, very frustrated with I don't know. And so we seek to find out. We build new tools to find out. We engage in philosophy to build the philosophy of science to understand the difference between what is testable and what's not, what is falsifiable and what's not. So the very thing that is nagging you, or the reason this puzzle is nagging you and you don't want to let go of it, is an example of the very evolutionary driven benefit that got you to this point in the first place. And so it is incredibly difficult to get comfortable with saying, I don't know. But just imagine that if we found out tomorrow that our understanding of evolution by means of natural selection that Jimmy described, the benefits of our ability to learn and how they've helped our species. If we found out tomorrow that all of that was wrong, now we would have the question, okay, then what is the explanation for our intelligence? And the God proposed explanation would have no more evidence than it's ever had and would do nothing more to explain this, because God isn't an explanation. God is a panacea that people inject into the gaps in our knowledge to pretend like they've solved a problem so they don't have to recognize that they actually don't have the answer yet.
Yeah, that's true. I see that. I see using a God as a way to, settle down your feelings about not knowing what's there, and just making it easier, like in a way, I guess, to accept things as they are.
It takes some time, and really, I think. Thank you. It takes some time, but I think one of the key things is, stop looking at it as a decision, because you don't decide what you believe. You just become convinced or you're not convinced. And the time to be convinced that there is a God is when there is direct evidence for that God. Until then, God is at best a speculation, and at worst, an outright lie that is hindering progress. because all of the things that we could have discovered about any number of topics that were attempted to be answered by various religions, when you think you have the right answer, you spend no time looking for the right answer. And when religions pretend to have the right answers, that halts people's progress towards an accurate understanding. If in fact there is a God and God's the right answer to any of the questions or concerns you have, the time to believe that is after there's good evidence for it. And it should be something that anybody could present an argument and an evidence-based argument for, in the same way that Jimmy just did a rundown on evolution. And if you wanted, you could tune into Forrest, and Forrest could go through all the robust evidence for evolution as well. But it takes some time, and you've got to be willing to let yourself sit there and go, you know what? I'm genuinely tired of whenever I don't know something, whenever there's a puzzle that doesn't seem that anybody knows the answer to, I keep leaning towards God. Why do I do that? And part of it is because you're uncomfortable with not knowing. But the other part of it is that religion, to pivot off of Hitchens, poisons everything. And what they've done is they've convinced you that while you don't know, there might well be some magical being that lives outside of space-time who knows everything. And maybe someday, if you do things right, or if you're one of the chosen ones, or if you're really good, depending on, the soteriology, you'll get to go to heaven, and maybe God will explain it all to you, and then you'll know. And that is more comforting for some than not knowing.
Yeah, I guess that is. Yeah, you're right. I keep saying this thing that I chose or whatever, and it all has to do with just making the decision. Because you're right, there's no proof on the other side. And I do keep going back to, something that just I know isn't there. And yeah, I'm going to just have to decide that that's that, and quit worrying about, something I can't understand, like why I don't know everything.
You're asking all the right questions. It's just you weren't given a full set of tools on evaluating claims, just like I wasn't either. It was something that we had to work for. But yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot. I love listening to you guys. And I want to say there was one thing that I forget. Matt, you might have said it, or Forrest has said it to me, that kind of clicked with me, that helped me a lot. And it was, what if you realized that there was no God, or you took God out of your life completely? How does that change your life? And it really doesn't change my life. It's made no difference to me at all that I don't, believe he exists anymore, that he should just be gone, because he's added nothing to my life from what I can see now.
And in my case, and I won't speak for everybody because I know this isn't true for everybody. In my case, getting rid of the God belief made my life better. I'm a better person. I live a better life than I did before.
Yeah, I've heard that before. You guys always sound so freer and much more sure of yourselves. And that's, I think, something I've always kind of lacked, being sure of myself. And that's where the decision-making problems I think I have. So I want to thank you guys a lot for just listening to me and giving me the information I need to make that decision.
Well, you're very welcome, Maureen, and keep asking questions. And also, I know we've mentioned it before, but if ever we're unavailable and you have questions or want to talk to somebody, and you find yourself without anybody to talk to, there's always recoveringfromreligion.org. They actually have online counselors that can chat, and a hotline that you can call into. And there's plenty of people there that can maybe help with all you ever need. Every time we talk, Maureen, is, hey, let me say what is bugging me. And then you listen.
Yeah.
And we tell you how we deal with it or how we thought of it. And you take that on board. And then you head back out into life better. So keep trucking.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
You too. Thanks.
Bye, Maureen.
Bye.
and you listen,
Cool.
and we tell you how we deal with it or how we thought of it, and
what am I?
you take that on board. And
think that
I hear myself.
I think she started listening there at the end to the call and it dropped. Hey, if you liked this video, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't
That's
like
where
it,
you would say,
subscribe.
Okay.
You didn't even give me a chance.
There was such a long pause.
What are you on speed or something? I barely had a
Let's
chance.
try again. Hey, I hope you liked. Hey, I hope you. Fuck. Hey there. I hope you liked that clip. Hey, I hope you liked that clipper just now. The one that you just watched with your eyes. If you did like it, why don't you click that like button?
And if you didn't like it, tell Jimmy to go fuck himself.
Hey, I hope you liked that clip right now. If you did like it, why don't you hit that like button?
And if you didn't like it, go ahead and subscribe anyway.